We created these to fill a need in Revit for early design work. They're useful for space planning, adjacency studies, bubble diagrams, things of that sort that you do early on in the design that Revit doesn't really provide a good tool for. So there's a variety of families that you'll get in different shapes. Each one has easy to use stretch grips on all sides, so you can just select one, grab a grip, stretch it around. The various shapes, they'll have grips on all sides, so you can just stretch it out to whatever you need it to be. We've also included this graph paper family, which is an easy layout tool for you. What I've done here is actually put it on a design option, which allows you to snap to it but not actually select it while you're doing a layout. And I'll just show you how that works. I'll just uncheck exclude options here, and now I can select it. It also has stretch grips all the way around, so you can just grab a grip and stretch it out to the size you want it to be. You can also change the X and Y spacing of the grid. So if I type in, say, 2 feet in the X direction and 2 feet in the Y direction, that will change the density of the grid. Alright, I'll put this back the way it was. Whoops. And I'll turn exclude options back on so we don't select it. Now I'll show you some graphic options that we have with these the space planning families. Go ahead and select one of these, and I'll copy it over onto the graph paper so we can take a look at it. So you can see I can stretch these grips out and snap onto the grid lines. Alright, you can copy this around as many times as you need to. As far as the line work and plan, we've got some options for that built in. If you select one of the boxes, you have a checkbox for using maximum radius. So if that box is checked, you really get these sort of bubble diagram sort of shapes. And you can still stretch this out, and internally it's calculating the maximum radius it can provide given the shape you've stretched it out to. And if you don't want to have the maximum rounding around the corners, you can uncheck that and just specify what your radius will be. So if I change that to, say, 4 foot, I've got a 4 foot radius around my corners. So that gives you a more boxy shape. Changing the color is as easy as just selecting it. Find the fill color here and just swap it out to a different one. We've provided a handful of colors built into these materials to get you started. You can obviously change these, rename them if you have a set of colors that you'd like to use. So this is just to get you started, and it's easy as just clicking in the materials and swapping it out with a different color. If you want a more rectilinear look, we have under coarse, you get the heavy line work with the rounded corners. Under medium, cancel that, you get a more rectilinear look. So you have the actual area in hard line shapes. These families are in both 2D and 3D. So if I switch over to a 3D view, you'll see that they do have a height. Okay, so you can specify that. It's a parameter here. see, let's change this to say 16 feet. You'll see that that one pops up above the other ones. So you can use this sectionally. They do appear in sections. If you're doing stack diagrams, looking at something schematically, section views will work. I have a sample diagram here that I've laid out, and you'll notice that I have these tags assigned to them. We do provide a couple of tag families, and they have multiple options. If I select one, I could switch it out, give say name plus area plus length times width. Alright, and you can fill in these parameters as needed. The space usage parameter is one that you could use for departments. There's also a space name parameter. So, not sure what that is, but we'll just fill it in. Also, you have the option of using a, let's select the tag, a family that has the actual number in it as well. So if you're going to use the number, that parameter is actually the mark. Okay, and the box gets filled in. If you stretch these around, you'll see that the square footage automatically updates. Okay, so it's a tag specially built just for this family. Okay, stretch this out. And you can schedule these. So if you need to add up areas and subtotal by departments or by space types, you can do that. So I've created a schedule here. The families are actually generic models, and so there's a filtering mechanism built into the schedule to just select those space planning families. As you can see, you can fill in the mark, which would be numbers, the usage, which as I mentioned could be used for a department or anything you need, names, program area, and we can have a calculated value for the difference between a program area and the actual area if you need that. One more thing about these space planning tools is that since they're physically modeled, it's easy to snap to them with other objects like walls. So if you've got a layout that you've decided to move forward with, at some point you're going to have to start putting in walls and doors and things like that. And you can basically click on the wall tool and just snap to these edges and start completing your design. And at that point it would be time to move forward with walls and room objects to take care of your design from here on out. So the intent is to help you out with the beginning part of your design workflow for these space planning families, so you can very quickly put together various options without having to draw in all these walls and put room objects in them ahead of time. So we think they're very useful for that, and we hope you enjoy them.